The first contraction hit as Dr. Collins adjusted the fetal monitor. Through the haze of pain, I watched my husband Travis pace near the window, his phone screen glowing against his face. Another wave of pain crashed through me, and I gripped the metal rails of the hospital bed until my knuckles went white. "Almost there, Mabel," Dr. Collins said, his voice steady and familiar. "The baby's heartbeat is perfect." I nodded, too focused on breathing to respond. 12 hours of labor had stripped away any pretense of dignity, but I didn't care. Our daughter was coming, and nothing else mattered. Travis kept pacing, his footsteps marking time between contractions. He hadn't looked at me once in the past hour, but I blamed it on nerves. First-time father jitters, I told myself. The same reason he'd been distant these past few months. Push, Mabel. Push now. The world narrowed to a pinpoint of pain and pressure. I screamed, pushed, and suddenly, there she was. Perfect. Beautiful. Real. "Congratulations," Dr. Collins said, placing her on my chest. "She's absolutely healthy." I counted her tiny fingers through tears, memorizing every detail of her face. "Travis, come see her. Come meet our daughter." He didn't move. "Travis?" When he finally turned, his face was hard, unrecognizable. "I want a DNA test." The room went silent. Even the machines seemed to hold their breath. "What did you say?" My voice came out as a whisper. "You heard me." He stepped closer, jaw clenched. "I want a paternity test. Now." The nurse froze, hands hovering over the blanket she'd been about to wrap around the baby. Dr. Collins straightened, his expression darkening. "Travis, this isn't the time or place," Dr. Collins started. "It's exactly the time and place." Travis cut him off, his voice rising. "Before any paperwork gets filed. Before any names go on birth certificates." I clutched our daughter closer, my body trembling. "How dare you? How fucking dare you? How dare I?" He laughed, a hollow sound that echoed off the sterile walls. "You're gone all hours with your cousin Sam. Always at his house, always having dinner with him and Emily. Did you think I wouldn't notice?" "Their family," I choked out. "They've been there for me while you've been working late every night for months." "Working late?" He sneered. "Is that what you tell yourself I've been doing?" The implications hit me like a physical blow. My arms tightened around my daughter, as pieces clicked into place. The late nights. The hidden phone calls. The growing distance. "Get out." My voice was steel. "Not until I get that test." Dr. Collins stepped between us. "Mr. Thompson, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Now." Travis's face twisted. "You can't stop me from demanding a paternity test. It's my right." "Your rights don't include traumatizing my patient minutes after delivery." Dr. Collins's tone left no room for argument. "Leave voluntarily, or I'll have security escort you out." Travis's gaze locked with mine over Dr. Collins's shoulder. "This isn't over." "You're right," I said, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. "It's just beginning." He stormed out, leaving behind the acrid taste of betrayal and the first seeds of rage. I looked down at my daughter, peaceful despite the chaos around her, and made a silent promise. Whatever game Travis was playing, whatever his real motives were, he would regret this moment for the rest of his life. I would make sure of it. 3 days after bringing Sophie home, I found Travis's wedding ring on the bathroom counter. He hadn't worn it to work, hadn't even bothered hiding that fact anymore. The gold band sat there like a taunt, catching morning light through the window. I picked it up, feeling its weight, so much heavier than it looked. Behind me, Sophie's soft coos drifted from the nursery monitor. The sound steadied me, kept me from hurling the ring through the window like I wanted to. The front door clicked open downstairs. Travis's footsteps, too light, like he was trying to sneak in. I pocketed the ring and went to meet him. He froze at the foot of the stairs, briefcase in hand, tie loosened. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, but his shirt was freshly pressed. Someone had taken care to iron out every wrinkle. "Where were you?" I asked. "Working late. Big merger coming up." The lie rolled off his tongue smooth as honey. I crashed at the office. Funny. I called the office at midnight. No answer. His jaw tightened. I was in the conference room. Phone was on silent. "The cleaning crew said you left at 6. You're having me followed now?" "Just connecting dots, you're leaving everywhere." I pulled out his ring. "Like this one." Color drained from his face, but he recovered quickly. I took it off to shower. 3 days ago? "What do you want from me, Mabel?" His voice rose, sharp edges cutting through the quiet house. Sophie started crying upstairs. "I want the truth. I want to know why you're destroying our family before it's even started." "There you go again, making everything dramatic." He set down his briefcase, straightened his tie. "I'm working to provide for that baby you're so sure is mine." The casual cruelty of it stole my breath. "Get out. This is my house too." "The house my father's life insurance paid for?" "That house." I stepped closer, voice low and steady. "The one you convinced me to put only in your name because of some bullshit about tax benefits?" Something flickered in his eyes, surprise, maybe fear. He hadn't expected me to remember that detail. "You should be grateful," he said. "I've given you everything." "No. You've taken everything. But you won't take her." Sophie's cries grew louder. "I'm calling a lawyer tomorrow." He laughed, but it sounded hollow. "With what money? Your part-time salary? The savings you don't have access to anymore?" Ice spread through my veins. "What did you say?" "Check the accounts if you don't believe me." He picked up his briefcase, straightened his shoulders. "I'm going to shower. We can discuss this like adults when you've calmed down." I watched him climb the stairs, each step deliberate and controlled. The moment he was out of sight, I grabbed my phone, logged into our joint account. Zero balance. Savings account? Access denied. Credit card? Declined. My hands shook as I called Sam. He answered on the first ring. "I need help," I whispered, afraid Travis might hear. "He's taken everything." "Stay there. Emily and I are coming over." "No, I need to leave. Now." "While he's in the shower." I was already moving, grabbing Sophie's diaper bag. "Can you meet me somewhere?" "Our place." "I'll call Dr. Collins too, he should know what's happening." "Thank you." I paused at Sophie's door, hearing the shower running down the hall. "Sam? There's something else." "The house. I think he's been planning this for months." "We'll figure it out, Mabel. Just get yourself and Sophie out safely." I ended the call, scooped up my still-crying daughter, and grabbed her ready-packed overnight bag, the one I'd prepared 2 days ago when I first suspected things might come to this. As I strapped Sophie into her car seat, I caught movement in the upstairs window. Travis stood there, watching, phone pressed to his ear. His face was blank, unreadable, a stranger's face. I drove away without looking back, but his expression burned in my mind. He wasn't surprised. He wasn't angry. He looked satisfied. Like everything was going according to plan. But he'd forgotten something crucial: I wasn't the same woman he'd married. That woman died in the delivery room 3 days ago, replaced by someone with nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. Sam's dining room table disappeared under stacks of financial documents and printed emails. Emily paced behind him, bouncing Sophie while scanning bank statements over his shoulder. Dr. Collins sat across from me, his expression growing darker with each page he reviewed. He's been siphoning money for months, Sam said, tapping his laptop screen. Small amounts at first, then larger transfers starting about 6 weeks ago. Right around when he started demanding that DNA test. I traced the edge of a bank statement, numbers blurring together. Where's it all going? That's the interesting part. Sam turned his laptop toward me. Multiple accounts, all under different business names. But look at the registered address. I leaned forward, squinting at the screen. Wait. That's his mother's old house. The one that's been empty since she died. Empty, but not unused. Emily stopped pacing. I drove by yesterday. There's a car in the driveway, red BMW, new model. Something clicked. The woman I saw him with last month. At that coffee shop across town. My throat tightened. She was driving a red BMW. Dr. Collins cleared his throat. Mabel, there's something else you should know. He slid a document across the table. Travis came to my office yesterday, demanding Sophie's medical records. When I refused, he threatened to sue the hospital. He can't do that, Emily said. Can he? He's trying to build a case, Sam muttered, fingers flying over his keyboard. Make it look like Mabel's an unfit mother. Classic misdirection. My phone buzzed, another text from Travis's lawyer. Third one today. I ignored it. Got it. Sam's voice sharpened. Natalie James. 28. Works at Travis's firm as a junior partner. Started there 8 months ago. The room spun slightly. 8 months. Right when everything started changing. There's more, Sam continued. She just bought a house. Guess who co-signed the mortgage? Before I could answer, Sophie started wailing. Emily handed her to me, and I breathed in her baby scent, letting it anchor me. He's not just having an affair, I said quietly. He's building a whole new life. While systematically destroying yours, Dr. Collins added. The timing's too perfect. This was planned. My phone buzzed again. This time, I looked. They're filing for emergency custody, I whispered. Claiming I'm mentally unstable and fled with Sophie against court orders. My hands started shaking. There aren't any court orders. Not yet, Sam said grimly. But there will be. He's trying to force you back home where he can control the narrative. Dr. Collins stood abruptly. I need to make some calls. That DNA test he's demanding? I think I know who's handling it at the lab. We need to make sure it's done properly. It won't matter, I said. She's his. He knows she's his. This isn't about Sophie at all. Emily sat beside me, her hand warm on my shoulder. What do you mean? The house. The money. The girlfriend. I looked down at Sophie, now sleeping peacefully. He needed a reason to leave that made him look like the victim. What better way than accusing your pregnant wife of cheating? Sam's typing stopped. The insurance money. Your father's house. He can't touch either if he's the one who leaves you. But if I'm unfaithful? If I'm unstable? The pieces fell into place like a perverse puzzle. He gets everything. Not everything, Dr. Collins said from the doorway. He doesn't get the truth. He pulled out his phone. And I think it's time we shared that with Miss James. No. I stood, decision crystallizing. Not yet. First, we need to know exactly what we're dealing with. Sam, can you trace those accounts? Find out what he's really doing with the money? Already on it. Emily, that BMW, think you could get its license plate? Maybe follow it? She smiled. I knew those stalking skills from my single days would come in handy. Dr. Collins? I turned to him. I need one more favor. He nodded. Name it. Help me protect Sophie. Whatever happens next, she needs to be safe. You have my word. He paused. Your father would be proud, Mabel. He always said you were stronger than anyone knew. I looked around the room at these people who'd become my fortress, then down at my daughter, the one pure thing in this mess of lies. Travis wants to play games? I said softly. Fine. Let's play. The courthouse loomed gray and imposing in the morning light. I adjusted Sophie's carrier, her warm weight against my chest the only thing keeping me steady. Emily squeezed my hand as we climbed the steps, Sam and Dr. Collins flanking us like guards. Remember, Sam whispered, let the lawyer do the talking. The emergency custody hearing. Travis's latest move in a game I was only beginning to understand. We pushed through heavy doors into fluorescent-lit halls that smelled of dust and desperation. Travis stood outside courtroom 3, designer suit pristine, talking quietly with a woman I didn't recognize. When he saw us, his expression shifted, something predatory flickering behind the professional mask. Mabel. He stepped forward, voice dripping concern. You're looking tired. Maybe this could have been avoided if you'd just come home. Before I could respond, Dr. Collins moved between us. Save it for the judge, Mr. Thompson. The woman beside Travis cleared her throat. Dr. Collins. I wasn't expecting to see you here. Miss James, I presume? Dr. Collins's voice carried just enough volume to echo. Interesting choice of venue for your first meeting with Travis's wife. The woman, Natalie, paled. Her eyes darted between Travis and Sophie, realization dawning in slow, horrible waves. Wife? She took a step back. You said you were separated. That the baby? Natalie, not now. Travis grabbed her elbow, but she yanked away. You said she cheated. That the baby wasn't yours. That's why she stopped, hand flying to her mouth. The corridor fell silent. Even Sophie, usually fussy in crowds, seemed to hold her breath. That's why you what? Emily's voice cut through the tension like a blade. Natalie looked at Travis, then at me, then down at her own stomach. The gesture was unconscious, instinctive, and devastating in its implications. Oh God, I whispered. Travis's lawyer appeared, trying to hustle everyone into the courtroom, but the damage was done. I watched Natalie flee down the hallway, heels clicking against marble, leaving behind the wreckage of her revelation. Inside the courtroom, Travis's lawyer painted me as unstable, paranoid, a flight risk. Presented evidence of my supposed affair with Sam. Demanded immediate return of Sophie to the family home, to Travis's custody. Our lawyer countered with bank records, Dr. Collins's testimony about Travis's behavior at the hospital. Evidence of his systematic financial abuse. But it was Natalie's unplanned appearance, an unspoken confession, that changed everything. The judge denied Travis's emergency petition. Granted me temporary full custody. Ordered Travis to restore access to our accounts pending a full hearing. This isn't over, Travis hissed as we left the courtroom. You have no idea what you're dealing with. I turned to face him, really looked at him for the first time since Sophie's birth. The man I'd married was gone, replaced by someone I never really knew. You're right, I said quietly. It's not over. Because now I know why you needed that DNA test. Why you needed me to be the villain in your story. I adjusted Sophie's carrier, making sure Travis could see her face, his face, in miniature. You needed an escape plan before your new baby arrives. Before anyone could question the timing. He flinched. Actually flinched. Mabel. Sam's voice, urgent. We need to go. Now. In the parking lot, Emily grabbed my arm. Look. Natalie stood by Travis's car, phone in hand, scrolling through what looked like photos. Even from a distance, I could see her hands shaking. Think she's finding out the truth? Emily asked. She's finding out his truth, I corrected. The same lies he told me, probably. The same promises. Sam checked his phone. My contact at the firm just confirmed Natalie's been promoted to full partner. Youngest in the company's history. Just like Travis promised me that house would be in both our names. I watched Natalie drop her phone, saw her shoulders start to shake. He's not just building a new life. He's recreating his old one. With upgrades. Dr. Collins joined us, carrying a thick envelope. The DNA results you never asked for, but Travis demanded. Proof Sophie is his, not that you needed it. No, I said, watching Travis rush to Natalie, trying to explain, to control the situation just like he'd done with me. But I think I know someone who might want to see them. I took the envelope, made a decision. Emily, still got Natalie's license plate? She nodded. Good. Because I think it's time she learned exactly what kind of man she's carrying a child for. The coffee shop was empty except for Natalie, who sat in the corner booth, both hands wrapped around a cooling mug. Her designer blazer couldn't hide the slight swell of her stomach. 3 months, maybe 4. I slid into the seat across from her, placed Sophie's carrier beside me. Natalie's eyes fixed on my daughter's sleeping face. She looks like him, she whispered. That's why he wanted the DNA test. To create doubt. I pulled out the envelope Dr. Collins had given me. But there isn't any. Her fingers trembled as she opened it, scanning the results. He told me you trapped him. That the baby wasn't his. She looked up, eyes red-rimmed. He said a lot of things. About the house in his mother's name? I watched her flinch. The joint accounts you opened together? How did you? Because he did the same thing to me. Different house, different accounts, same promises. Sam's text lit up my phone, files downloaded. You were right about the offshore accounts. He's been moving money, I said, sliding my phone across the table. Look at the dates. Natalie scrolled through Sam's findings, color draining from her face. These transfers. They started right after I told him about, she pressed a hand to her stomach. Right after he started accusing me of cheating. I kept my voice steady. Right after he convinced you to sign those partnership papers. The papers that made him my supervising partner. Understanding dawned in her eyes. The ones that give him control over my cases, my clients. Your billable hours? Your partnership track? The pieces clicked together as I spoke them. Everything you've worked for? Her phone buzzed, Travis's face lighting up the screen. She silenced it with shaking hands. There's more, I said quietly. Dr. Collins found something in the hospital records. Something Travis tried to hide. Before I could continue, the coffee shop door chimed. Travis strode in, all polished confidence until he saw us together. His mask slipped for just a second, long enough to reveal raw panic. Natalie, don't listen to her. He reached for her arm. She's unstable, remember? The court documents prove it. The ones your lawyer fabricated? I stood slowly. Or the ones Dr. Collins is submitting to the medical board about your attempted tampering with hospital records? You're lying. but his voice wavered. About the vasectomy you had 3 years ago? The words hit him like physical blows. The one you got right after telling me you wanted to start a family? Natalie made a small, broken sound. What? Check his medical records, I said, never taking my eyes off Travis. The ones Dr. Collins found when you demanded Sophie's DNA test. Funny how that worked out, isn't it? Travis lunged for my phone on the table, but Natalie was faster. She clutched it to her chest, backing away from him. Don't, she whispered. Don't you dare. Baby, let me explain. Like you explained about being married? Her voice rose. About the house? The accounts? About being physically incapable of fathering my child? The coffee shop had gone silent. Even Sophie slept on, oblivious to the destruction unfolding around her. Who is it? Natalie's question cut through the quiet. Which of my clients did you push me to work late with? Was it all just part of your plan? Travis's face hardened. You ungrateful bitch. Both of you. After everything I've given you. Given? I laughed, the sound sharp enough to make him step back. You've only taken. From both of us. But here's what you didn't count on. I nodded to the window where Sam stood, phone raised, recording everything. We're not playing your game anymore. Natalie straightened, wiped her eyes. I want a full audit of my cases. And a paternity test. She grabbed her bag. And Travis? My father's still on the ethics board. Thought you should know that. She walked out, head high, leaving Travis standing there as his carefully constructed world began to crumble. I gathered Sophie's carrier, paused beside him. You wanted a DNA test so badly? Congratulations. You just destroyed yourself with one. His response was lost in the sound of police sirens approaching, right on schedule, thanks to Sam's evidence of financial fraud. Sometimes, I realized, the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting free. The police station's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across Travis's face as they led him away in handcuffs. Financial fraud. Evidence tampering. Attempted coercion. The charges kept mounting, but I felt hollow inside, watching his destruction unfold. Mrs. Thompson? A detective appeared beside me, holding a stack of files. We found something else you should see. I followed her to an interview room, leaving Sophie with Emily in the waiting area. Sam and Dr. Collins were already inside, faces grim. There were other women, the detective said, spreading photos across the table. Before you. Before Natalie. Each photo told the same story, different women, same pattern. Houses in his mother's name. Joint accounts drained dry. Lives systematically dismantled. He's done this before? My voice sounded distant, strange. 3 times. Sam picked up one photo. All professional women. All pregnant when he left. The children? None were his. Dr. Collins's voice was gentle. The vasectomy was 9 years ago, not 3. Everything was a lie, Mabel. From the very beginning. The room tilted sideways. I gripped the table edge, bile rising in my throat. But Sophie is yours, Dr. Collins said quickly. The DNA test proved that. But Travis isn't her father. Memory hit like a physical blow, that Christmas party last year. The drink that tasted strange. The morning I couldn't quite remember. Oh God. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. He planned it. All of it. We found these in his private email. The detective slid over printed messages. He tracked your fertility cycle. Arranged everything. Why? The question burned like acid. Your father's insurance policy. Sam's hands clenched into fists. The one that only pays out to biological grandchildren. The room spun faster. Travis hadn't just betrayed me, he'd violated me in the most fundamental way possible. Used my body, my child, my entire life as pawns in his scheme. Mrs. Thompson? The detective's voice seemed to come from far away. There's more. Your house. It's been sold. What? This morning. Before we arrested him. The money's already been transferred offshore. I thought of Sophie's nursery. The garden I'd planted. My father's old desk in the study. All gone. He can't. The deed was only in his name, Sam said softly. You have 72 hours to vacate. A laugh bubbled up, harsh, hysterical. So that's it? He wins? Takes everything and walks away? Not everything, Dr. Collins said. Not Sophie. A child he arranged to create? My voice cracked. Using methods that we can't prove without destroying her life? What kind of mother am I, bringing her into this nightmare? Emily appeared in the doorway, Sophie fussing in her arms. The kind who'll protect her. The kind who'll make sure she never knows how she was conceived, only how fiercely she's loved. I reached for my daughter, but my legs gave out. Sam caught me before I hit the floor. We have enough to put him away for the fraud, the detective said. The other charges would mean telling Sophie the truth someday. I pulled myself up, steel replacing the weakness in my spine. No. He doesn't get to destroy her too. Mabel, Sam started. No. I stood straighter, decision crystallizing. He wanted to play with lives? Create children for profit? Fine. Let's see how he likes it when the game changes. What are you thinking? Emily asked. I took Sophie from her, breathed in my daughter's sweet baby scent. Dr. Collins, you said there were other women? Other children? He nodded slowly. Find them. My voice was steady now, cold. All of them. Every woman he's destroyed, every child he's tried to use. Let's show Travis what happens when his victims stop being victims. And become what? Sam asked quietly. I thought of Travis in handcuffs, still smirking like he had a secret escape plan. Still thinking he was the smartest person in the room. Survivors, I said. We become survivors. And then we become his worst nightmare. Sophie grabbed my finger, squeezed tight. In that grip, I felt strength returning. Travis thought he'd broken me, but he'd only shown me what I was capable of. Sometimes rock bottom isn't an ending. Sometimes it's just the foundation you build your revenge upon. The prison visiting room smelled of industrial cleaner and desperation. Travis sat across from me, orange jumpsuit stark against his pale skin, that familiar smirk still playing at his lips. Come to gloat? He leaned back, trying to project confidence despite the handcuffs. No. I placed a manila envelope on the table between us. Come to make a deal. His eyes narrowed. I'm already facing 15 years. What could you possibly offer? Names. I slid 3 photographs across the table. Rachel Stevens. Maria Delgado. Sarah Chin. The smirk vanished. Your previous victims, I continued. All successful women. All with children they raised alone. All with stories remarkably similar to mine. Prove it. But his voice wavered. They're in the next room. Along with Natalie. I tapped the envelope. And documentation of every account you've hidden offshore. Every property you've transferred. Every lie you've told. He lunged forward, but the chains caught him. You're bluffing. Rachel's daughter just turned 9. Maria's son is 7. Sarah's twins are 5. I met his gaze steadily. Want to guess what they all have in common? Understanding dawned in his eyes. You can't prove anything. DNA doesn't lie, Travis. Not when it shows all 4 children share the same father. I pushed another document forward. Your medical records. The vasectomy reversal you had before each marriage. The fertility tracking. The drugs found in my system from last Christmas. His mask cracked. What do you want? Everything. The house. The accounts. The trust fund you set up for your future children. I leaned closer. Sign it all over, or every prosecutor in every state where you committed fraud gets these files. You'd do that? He sneered. Let everyone know how your precious daughter was conceived. Sophie will know she was born from love. My love. The rest? I shrugged. Just proves what a monster you are. They'll never believe you. Already have. Sam's voice came from behind me as he entered with Dr. Collins. The DA's very interested in pattern recognition, especially when it involves premeditated assault and medical board ethics violations, Dr. Collins added, placing more files on the table. Falsified records. Coerced procedures. It's quite a list. Travis's eyes darted between us, calculating. I'll still have my practice when I get out. My reputation is already gone. Natalie stepped into the room, followed by 3 women I recognized from the photos. We're done being silent. All of us, Rachel said. Every single one, Maria added. Sarah placed her hands on my shoulders. Together. Travis slumped, defeat finally reaching his eyes. You've destroyed everything I built. No. I stood, gathering the files. You did that yourself. We're just making sure you can't build it again. The papers are ready, Sam said. Sign them, and we keep the worst of it quiet. Refuse. He gestured to the women around the room. We all go public. Travis's hand shook as he signed, his signature a broken version of its usual flourish. Congratulations, he spat. You got your revenge. This isn't revenge. I gathered Sophie's carrier from where Emily waited by the door. This is justice. For every woman you hurt. Every child you tried to use. And this? He nodded at Sophie, one last attempt to wound. How will you explain her existence? With pride. I lifted my daughter, let her presence strengthen me. Because she'll grow up knowing she saved not just me, but all of us. Your attempt to create the perfect victim created something else instead. What's that? A family. I turned to the women who'd become my sisters in survival. One you'll never understand or destroy. We left him there, broken and alone, his carefully constructed world of lies finally shattered. In the hallway, our children waited, for innocent lives he'd tried to use as pawns, now bound together by something stronger than DNA. Ready? Emily asked, holding the door. I looked at my newfound family, saw our shared strength reflected in each face. Yes. We all are. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemy. It's about building something beautiful from the ruins they left behind. The key clicked in my father's old desk, now sitting in the corner of my new home office. Inside, the manila envelope waited, final divorce papers, court documents, newspaper clippings about Travis's sentencing. A life dismantled, documented in cold legal terms. Sophie's laughter drifted through the open window, mixed with the voices of Rachel's daughter and Maria's son playing in the backyard. Sarah's twins had already gone home, but their artwork still decorated my refrigerator. Ready? Dr. Collins stood in the doorway, holding a leather-bound journal I'd never seen before. Almost. I closed the desk drawer without taking out the envelope. Some things were better left locked away. He sat across from me, placed the journal between us. Your father gave me this the day before he died. Asked me to hold on to it until you needed it most. My hands trembled as I opened it. Dad's familiar handwriting filled the pages, observations, suspicions, notes about Travis dating back to our engagement. He knew? My voice cracked. He recognized something in Travis. Something he'd seen before. Dr. Collins leaned forward. In your mother's first husband. The world tilted sideways. What? Your father wasn't just my patient, Mabel. He was my best friend. We spent years tracking men like Travis, trying to protect other families. He tapped the journal. Your father knew he was dying. Knew he couldn't protect you himself. So he left breadcrumbs, the insurance policy, the medical records I had access to, even the connection to Natalie's father on the ethics board. All this time, I traced Dad's signature on the last page. He was still watching over me. A crash from outside interrupted us. I rushed to the window, but it was just Sophie knocking over the soccer goal. Emily helped her set it right while Sam recorded everything on his phone, probably for the documentary he was making about Travis's victims, no. Survivors. Your father would be proud, Dr. Collins said softly. Not just of how you survived, but of what you built afterward. He was right. The support group we'd started was helping other women recognize the warning signs. The foundation, funded by Travis's seized assets, provided legal aid to those trapped in similar situations. Even Natalie had found her place, using her law degree to advocate for stronger fraud protections. There's something else. Dr. Collins pulled out an envelope. The ethics board's final decision came today. They're not just revoking Travis's medical license, they're reviewing every case he ever handled. How many? Dozens. Maybe hundreds. He sighed. Some wounds we can heal. Others we can prevent. I stood, decision made. The Foundation's next project, tracking down every patient he might have hurt. Offering help, support, whatever they need. Using his own money to undo his damage? Dr. Collins smiled. Perfect justice. A small hand tugged at my skirt. Sophie stood there, grass-stained and grinning, holding up a dandelion. Behind her, Rachel and Maria chatted on the patio while their children played. Emily arranged snacks while Sam edited footage on his laptop. My new family, built from the ashes of Travis's destruction. For you, Mama, Sophie said, offering the dandelion. I lifted her onto my lap, breathed in the scent of sunshine and childhood. Make a wish? She blew, sending white seeds dancing through the air. Some would take root, I knew. Grow strong despite harsh conditions. Transform into something beautiful and resilient. Just like us. Dr. Collins gathered his things to leave, but paused at the door. Your father's last note, the one he wrote just for you. Did you want to read it? I looked at Sophie, at the family gathering in my backyard, at the Foundation paperwork on my desk. At all the ways love could triumph over hate, truth over lies, justice over revenge. No, I said softly. I think I already know what it says. Because in the end, Dad had given me everything I needed, not just the tools to survive Travis, but the strength to build something better from the wreckage. Something that would help others find their way out of darkness. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemy's world. It's about creating a better one in its place.